In the beginning, an insect is shown feeding on something. It quickly becomes clear that this is a grotesque scene. Several locusts are swarming over the protagonist, Choi. In her thoughts, there is nothing but pain, a pain that tears through both body and soul. In a place untouched by light, deep within a dungeon forsaken by gods and men, a single breath echoes amid the groans and the wet, sickening sound of flesh being torn apart. Choi no longer wants to fight. She no longer wants to live. Her body, broken and bleeding, lies surrounded by monsters. She whispers faintly, drowning in her own blood, but death refuses to take her. It all began when Choi, Hyun-chan, and the rest of their guild stumbled upon a hidden entrance behind a magical wall in a dungeon that wasn't on any map. One of the hunters, eyes gleaming with greed, suggested they clear it themselves and split the loot. Hyun-chan didn't hesitate. His eyes didn't shine with courage but with raw ambition. Tired of earning too little as hunters, he convinced himself they'd be better off handling the dungeon without official support. Choi, however, was uneasy. Something about that entrance chilled her to the bone. A gut feeling. A sense that something was wrong. But Hyun-chan dismissed her concerns. He explains that this is 1 in a million chance. He also emphasizes that all the others agreed but her. He gets angry by her concerns, considering it as an embarrassment. She tries to explain that bugs might arrive inside and he mocked her fears, especially her fear of insects, which had once embarrassed her in the past. He questioned her usefulness, reminding her that they didn't even need a C-rank tank. And worse, he made her doubt her worth, not just as a hunter, but as someone who had stayed with him out of affection. She wasn't there for the money. She was there for him. So she lowered her head, swallowed her pride. Before entering, Choi thinks about the fact that if wasn't him, she could not find any party to join. The scene of him convincing her using the fact he is her boyfriend is overwhelming. She could not refuse the only option to trust him. They finally decide to move on. After getting ready, the group moves. Inside, the atmosphere was oppressive, the ground is covered in weeds. Choi moved silently, her anxiety growing with every step. Meanwhile, the rest of the group joked and fantasized about riches, completely unaware of the nightmare ahead. And then it began. A faint buzzing echoed through the dungeon. Until a black cloud filled the air, a swarm of massive grotesque insects with sharp mandibles and starving eyes. Panic erupted. The sight of hundreds of monsters leaves the group stunned. The creatures then started the attack, hitting everyone from every direction, as if they had waited centuries to feast. The group used everything they had to counterattack. Screams filled the space, mixing with the crunch of the weapons crashing and bug flesh being shattered. Hyun orders Choi to keep blocking the attacks while the others try to handle. She tries her best to immobilize the creatures, but the pressure is too much. As the time passes, seconds are like hours, and the monsters are starting to overpass her defense. The ones who supposed to be handling the monsters couldn't make it. They then turned to Hyun to ask him what to do. The answer was a cold silence. Choi, with her shield raised, endured hit after hit, doing everything to protect the group. She gave everything she had. But the monsters didn't stop. Her voice cracked as she begged for healing, for support. But there was no response. When she turned her head, she saw it. All the party members were running without her. Hein was coward enough to, while running, blame her the fault. She instantly tried to escape too, but their weakness wasn't ended yet. Hyun-chan had been the first to abandon her. The one she trusted most. She cried out, begging him to wait, to not leave her behind. The other girl from the party tried to stop him from closing the door, so Choi could pass, but the door closed. The reality was cruel. She was alone, begging for a chance to live. On the other side, his voice cut like a blade through her chest. Her beloved said that her death was necessary so all the others could live. He didn't care about his girlfriend. For him, she was just an idiot. Choi was left alone. But she still wanted to live. Turning back, she saw the monsters getting closer. Decided to don't give up, she saw a way to go and ran deep in the forest, completely focusing on survival. She still believed that, if she makes it, Hyun could come back and save her. I must confess that at this point she needed a slap of reality. She then found something strange. A massive skeleton with a glowing light stood before her. The towering skeletal titan extended a wooden hand and offered her a ring. Without hesitation, Choi took it, and after taking a look, she slipped it onto her finger. After a few seconds, the ring activated a system window. It was an EX-class item, the Parasite Ring. Its effects were clear. It influenced the user's growth, affected the user's life, regenerated the body, and most of all, made death impossible until the incubation was complete. A sense of relief overwhelmed her, but she barely had time to process what had happened before the agony returned. The monsters found her and engaged. Their attacks crushed her to the ground, her body was about to be devoured. When she finally faced the death, her body was brought back. After realizing she was still alive, she looked at the ring, remembering that it was the responsible for not letting her die. The monsters then attacked once more, and this was the beginning of a true hell for Choi's life. She tried her best to escape, but being caught was inevitable. The pain was unbearable. Every bite, every gash felt vivid and excruciating. She screamed until her voice failed, but her body regenerated just for being tortured. The ring would not let her die. Time passed and the cycle did not end. As her body recovered, the only wish was to rest in peace. She can't believe that her life will be resumed to be a monster chow. Then, in the middle of nowhere, she saw her sword. The same one Hyunshan had given her on her birthday. Along with it came the memory. And with the memory came the rage. He had abandoned her. Thrown her into this hell. Her fury surged and she grabbed her sword. As soon as the monsters approached, she easily killed them with a single slash. A system window appeared, showing that her strength increased 2 points. She took a time to check, but another attack was coming. Another one dead, more status points increased, this time for accuracy. Another died, more stamina. Choi was growing stronger. With every kill, her body regenerated faster. The pain that had once driven her to the brink now became fuel. She embraced it. She laughed, low at first, then louder, louder still. It was the laugh of someone who had tasted death 1,000 times and come back with purpose. Now she understood. She finally saw the ring's true power. The fear was gone. The pain mastered. Only one goal remained, vengeance. She welcomed the monsters. Promised to kill them all. She would escape. She would find Hyunshan. And when she did, there would be no mercy. She just need to wait a little longer. Her blade became a blur, slicing through mantises with brutal precision and a wicked grin. The battlefield was soon covered in dismembered limbs and pools of purple blood. Amid the slaughter, she was stabbed in the stomach. Breathing heavily, body trembling from pain, she stood her ground as another mantis growled behind her. A faint green glow shimmered around the mysterious ring on her finger. Without hesitation, she turned and struck back, decapitating her attacker in a violent spray of blood. Even as pain tore through her body, one of the monster's limbs embedded deep in her flesh, she didn't falter. Surrounded again, she prepared for another onslaught. Her body glowed with power, eyes burning with resolve. The mantises paused, screaming in fear. She grinned, red eyes blazing, mocking their hesitation. When they finally charged, she welcomed them with a scream and a slash, laughter echoing as she tore through them in a relentless frenzy. Her movements were fluid, her strikes precise, her smile never fading. Thrilled by her escalating power, she crouched low, waiting for more. As mantises closed in, she leapt high into the air, preparing a deadly blow. With fury and a voice filled with wrath, she screamed for their end. A massive wave of red energy erupted from above, obliterating everything in its path. When the dust settled, corpses littered the ground. The system confirmed the dungeon had been cleared after an exhausting 634 hours. Choi stood soaked in blood and silence, her body trembling. She lowered her head, overwhelmed. As she looked up, a message appeared. Her rank had advanced. A massive door opened ahead of her. She let out a dark smirk, quietly remarking how long the fight had dragged on. Nearby, a badly wounded mantis twitched weakly in its own blood. Without emotion, Choi crushed it under her foot, declaring it was time for revenge on those who had left her behind. Elsewhere, tensions rose. A voice questioned how Choi had even ended up trapped inside the dungeon. Accusations flew, a girl yelling furiously at Hunshin for abandoning his girlfriend. Hunshin remained calm, insisting staying behind would have doomed them all. Another man, apathetic, remarked that someone had to survive. The orange-haired girl mocked them for being weak C-ranks, while the purple-haired girl lashed out, saying she was done with their arrogance. The black-haired guy panicked as she threatened to expose everything. The orange-haired girl dismissed it coldly, stating deaths in dungeons were meaningless. Hunshin stood quietly, a faint smile masking something deeper. When he softly said, "Nara," she turned, angry and suspicious. He challenged her, asking what she'd do if she were the one abandoned next time. He questioned how she thought a C-rank like her could survive a B-rank dungeon alone. He grabbed her shoulder, mocking her fear while trying to act composed, suggesting they all leave peacefully. He shifted the blame to Choi, saying it was her fault she'd been left behind. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the area. Debris rained down as everyone turned in shock. Through the smoke, a figure emerged, a girl walking calmly, blood-stained, torn clothes clinging to her. She looked around, amused they were still alive, and greeted them as if nothing had happened. Everyone froze in disbelief. Was Choi? Hyun stared, stunned, unable to understand how she could be alive. Nara stammered her name, shocked. Hyun rushed to hug her, relieved, apologizing for not returning. Hyun spoke softly, saying it had been for the team. Choi nodded, pretending to agree, thanking her for being so understanding. But something about Choi had changed. His smile didn't reach her eyes. Her expression was off. Hein noticed the blood, the damage to her outfit, yet her body was untouched. No wounds. No scars. He began to sweat. Then a gloved black hand rested on her shoulder. The man in the red tracksuit cheerfully thanked her for not holding a grudge, saying they could team up again to face the boss. Choi laughed, surprised they had actually waited. Hunchin watched in silence, unease growing in his chest as doubt crept in. Something was very wrong. The man in the red tracksuit laughs, feigning guilt for abandoning Choi. Hunchin watches silently as the group walks off together. Choi glances back with a subtle, unreadable smile. Hunchin forces a grin, trying to convince himself he's just imagining things. Suddenly, birds take flight as the ground trembles. A powerful hoof strikes the forest floor, and a towering stag-like creature emerges. The dire knuckle, a supposed C-rank boss. Hidden behind a tree, Hyun quietly evaluates the threat before regrouping with his team. He gives orders with practiced confidence, instructing Choi to draw the monster's attention while the rest wait for an opportunity to strike. He cautions her not to let the beast focus on anyone else. Choi appears to agree but breaks formation without warning, charging forward with her shield raised. The team is thrown into confusion. She slams her shield into the ground, unleashing a powerful energy wave that rips through the forest. The dire knuckle's eye flashes, locking on her. Its roar shakes the trees, and the threat level suddenly feels far higher than anticipated. Hyun and the man in red panic as Choi becomes the sole focus of the enraged beast. Hyun calls out urgently, ordering the team to follow her lead. The dire knuckle charges at her. The group moves in, confident this is just another fight. Choi stands firm, but in an instant she's launched high into the air by the impact. Everyone watches in shock as she appears to retreat mid-battle. The red tracksuit guy reacts with frustration, yelling in panic before the monster charges at him with glowing red eyes. He is gruesomely impaled, his scream piercing the moment. The others freeze, horrified. Then, from above, Choi descends like a missile, her shield crashing into the monster's skull. She stands triumphantly over her bloodied ally, smirking. Her excuse is casual, claiming she panicked. Hyun trembles as he processes the chaos. Choi climbs onto the beast's back at full speed, straddling its head with fearless determination. The monster thrashes wildly, scattering the team. Hein, in disbelief, shouts at her, asking what she is doing. She only smirks, mocking him with glowing eyes. He then demands her to stop fooling around, and she asked if it really looks like she is fooling around, showing the lifeless body of the man in red. Everyone is left speechless. Gripping the beast's fur, Choi prepares for another charge. Her chilling grin shows she's far from done. The monster bellows and leaps forward, sending waves of panic through the group. After barely surviving the assault, they regroup, catching their breath. The team appears briefly uncertain. Hyun quickly assigns roles: healing, tanking, support, trying to restore order. The girl with orange hair confesses she has never tanked a boss before. Hyun's voice rises with urgency, warning that hesitation means death. He assumes command, urging the group to trust him. His calm reassures them. The orange hair coldly signals she's ready, ending the hesitation. Weapons are drawn, magic ignites, and the team braces for war. The orange hair charges headfirst at the monster, displaying startling power. The dire knuckle charges back, shaking the ground with every step. Hyun yells at her to stop the reckless assault. The girl with orange hair rushes forward, dual swords in hand. A magical barrier materializes just in time to shield her from the monster's crushing blow. She blocks it but is thrown across the battlefield, bloodied and broken. The group gasps in horror. Hyun is left stunned, breath caught in his throat. Choi grows uneasy. The creature's strength far exceeds expectations. A scan reveals the truth: this is not a C-rank monster. Its stats match an A-rank boss, and it possesses a rare divine blessing. The realization hits hard. Choi suspects a hidden relic may be powering the beast, possibly a parasitic ring. Despite her frustration, Hyun charges forward in a final attempt to end the battle. His assault is cut short when the beast strikes him mid-charge and sends him flying. From atop the monster, Choi watches as Hyun struggles to get back on his feet. Wounded but composed, Hyun calls out to her. She responds with a cold demeanor, curious about what he wants. Hyun speculates that Choi may have discovered a powerful item hidden in a secret dungeon. Standing before the monstrous creature, he becomes fully aware of how drastically Choi has changed. He offers her an apology, showing rare vulnerability by kneeling in front of her. Choi looks down at him, confused by his unexpected sincerity. He begins to apologize, but she pushes for more. As she repeatedly demands further answers, Hyun confesses his mistakes one after another. Eventually, overwhelmed, he declares that everything he did was wrong. Yet Choi insists he still doesn't understand the true reason for her anger. With a quiet and intense tone, she reveals that her real issue is his very existence. Hyun is left speechless as a massive shadow falls over him. Suddenly, the screen is consumed by a splash of blood. The beast's hoof comes crashing down onto the spot where Hyun knelt. Choi erupts into laughter, her expression twisting into madness. Her eyes sharpen, locking onto the last remaining survivor. She approaches Nara with a terrifying calm. As Nara trembles in fear, Choi coldly asks if she wants to live. Nara pleads desperately for her life. In a flashback, Nara is seen trying to stop Hyun while he attempted to shut a door, worried that Choi hadn't returned yet. Now, with glowing red eyes and a terrifyingly knowing look, Choi begins issuing orders. Nara, terrified, agrees instantly. Choi explains that she was only spared because she tried to stop Hyun and warns her to remain human. Nara quickly promises to obey. Then Choi ominously adds that there's one more thing. This throws Nara off. Choi grabs her sword and warns that saying the wrong thing could cost her life. Just then, the beast unleashes a brutal, bloody assault. Choi intercepts the attack, shielding both herself and Nara. She emerges from the clash with a blood-covered blade, smiling without fear. Nara responds nervously, trying to show bravery. Together they move forward, with Choi issuing another warning. Betrayal will not be tolerated. She reminds Nara to collect mana stones before they leave. A portal opens as soldiers gather around it. Choi and Nara step through, entering a new world. A dungeon staff member asks about the fate of the rest of their team. Choi casually responds that the others didn't make it. Nara nervously adds that the boss monster suddenly became stronger. Choi starts laughing, facing away from everyone. Trying to cover for her, Nara awkwardly claims that Choi is crying. She then says they will drop off the mana stones and enter first. One of the guild members is stunned that only 2 C-rank hunters survived a dungeon of the same rank. Both Choi and Nara are summoned for questioning. The guild master demands a full and detailed report. He explodes in anger, showing no concern about the creature's rank suddenly rising. He accuses Nara of failing her role. Choi, indifferent, yawns in response. Nara becomes visibly anxious, fearing the consequences of Choi's actions. The guild master expresses his panic over how to explain Hyunjin's death. He glances at his watch, visibly distressed and agitated. Choi stares silently, unimpressed. She mocks him for flaunting wealth while claiming to be broke. He defends himself, citing his expensive suit and car. Choi counters that they risk their lives while he reaps the rewards. The guild master clenches his jaw, cornered and clearly irritated. He becomes confused by Choi's newfound boldness, recalling how she used to hide behind Hyunjin and remain silent. Now he accuses both Choi and Nara, declaring that they'll be held accountable. Without addressing any concerns, he orders them to raid another dungeon immediately. He justifies it by saying they should be grateful for the opportunity, complaining that good hunters are hard to find. Overwhelmed by the loss of Hyunjin, he cruelly mutters that it should have been Choi who died instead. Suddenly sensing danger, he turns, too late. Choi strikes him from behind with a devastating blow. The guild master screams, filled with agony and terror. Everyone around is frozen in fear as Choi stands tall, laughing with pride. The guild master lies injured and writhing, while she mocks him with chilling calm. Choi confronts the guild master with sharp insults, accusing him of cowardice for never fighting on the front lines like the others. In response, the guild master lashes out, claiming she's lost her mind ever since Hyunjin died. Choi mocks him for sounding just like his nephew and declares that hurting him felt good. In response, the guild master lashes out, claiming she's lost her mind ever since Hyunjin died. Choi mocks him, saying she is indeed crazy once she did not die at his nephew. The guild master struggled to comprehend and she called him a dumbass. She also said she is done with Hyun and demanded the master to do not talk about him again. Her announcement that she's quitting the guild catches the guild master completely off guard, wondering what he will do from now on. She added a taunting remark saying he should have treated her better. As he tried to talk, she asked if he wanted one more kick. As the girls prepared to arrive, Choi dropped some money, saying that it will help Hyun's family with the funeral. The master's anger grows. While Nara shows concern for the guild master's injuries, Choi remains indifferent. The atmosphere then shifts to a quiet night outside. Choi casually brings up rock bands, complimenting Nara's shirt, which she admits she just picked up from a store. She notes that Hyunjin disliked such things, and her mood briefly dips. With no hesitation, Nara reminds that Hyunjin is dead, and Choi even admits, with an unsettling cheerfulness, that she was the one who killed him. Jumping on the bed, she boasts about her actions while Nara sits in silent panic, realizing she might be living with a dangerous person. When Nara nervously asks why she wants to stay at her house, Choi hugs a pillow in silence, explaining that she used to live with Hyunjin and can't go back there. Nara is too afraid to say no and agrees reluctantly. Choi immediately brightens. Nara reveals that she also left the guild, unable to stay after everything that happened. Curious, she asks about her plans, but Choi reveals she hasn't joined another guild and has no clear direction. When questioned about money, she calmly explains she has some savings. Nara is surprised, remembering how Hyun claimed to cover all her expenses, but she clarifies he only paid the deposit and they split everything else. Realizing she might stay indefinitely, Nara becomes uneasy and presses her about her next steps. Choi admits she has no motivation, feeling like she already accomplished her goals. Nara is stunned and asks what those goals were. She replies with a sweet smile that her goal was to kill all of them. Shaken, Nara quietly thanks her for sparing her, though her fear is evident. Choi laughs heartily, clearly enjoying her discomfort. She changes the topic, asking if he's hungry, and she admits she is. They debate dinner, and Choi reminisces about being scolded for eating late. After hearing how her ex treated her, Nara becomes visibly angry, calling the ex a bastard and saying good riddance. Choi seems genuinely touched by her reaction and awkwardly moves on to ordering food. Later that night, Nara falls asleep peacefully. Choi remains awake, deep in thought. She reflects on her life, realizing it's been a long time since she truly thought about what she wants. She concludes she no longer wants to enter dungeons or join guilds. Her dream now is to live quietly, taking on small jobs and resting. Suddenly, she jolts awake, overwhelmed by a strange sensation in her body. Gasping and visibly shaken, she clutches her stomach in panic, convinced something is moving inside her. Her glowing eyes widen in fear as she suspects that the ring might be the true reason behind everything that's happened. Choi tries to remove the glowing ring from her finger, but a system alert informs them it's a parasitic ring that cannot be removed. The name disturbs Choi. Frustrated and determined, she pulls at the ring anyway. A surge of energy courses through her, forcing a scream from her lips as her body convulses in pain. Her skin glows and she stares at herself in horror. Another system message confirms the ring regenerates the wearer and prevents death until something inside her hatches. Choi recalls seeing a similar system message inside a dungeon and begins to wonder what exactly is supposed to hatch. A disturbing memory flashes through Nara's mind, a grotesque creature violently emerging from someone's body. The memory paralyzes her with fear. Although she acknowledges that the ring saved her life, the unease lingers. She gazes at the glowing ring on her finger, fully aware that she can't relax just yet. With a hardened resolve, she decides that the ring must be removed regardless of the cost. Knowing that revealing an X-grade item would trigger serious consequences, she avoids seeking help through official channels. Instead, she chooses to investigate the ring underground. As daylight begins to creep into the room, she sits silently, contemplating her next move. A subtle smirk forms as she inwardly promises that things are far from over. Later, when asked about her hospital visit, Choi lies and attributes it to a stomach ache. Without warning, she calmly announces her desire to live with Nara. Shocked and flustered, Nara protests, declaring the place too small. Choi smirks and nonchalantly suggests they move to a larger home together. Her casual proposal leaves Nara bewildered and overwhelmed. When she reacts with panic, Choi dramatically presents her with an ultimatum: either die or live with her. Still yelling in refusal, Nara watches as Choi relents slightly, saying she'll only stay until she saves up enough money. She refuses to go back to Hunshin's. Nara reminds her she quit the guild, and she replies without concern, stating she'll get a part-time job. Then, with an ominous smile, she mentions the idea of entering a dog fight. Nara's horror is immediate as she yells that Choi is out of her mind. Choi confidently insists she'll make money for them both. At the underground dog fight venue, a crowd gathers to watch illegal matches. These aren't fights between dogs, but between awakened individuals ranked C or below. Winners earn profit through illegal bets. Nara is shocked by the possibility that some fighters may be disguising their true rank. Choi casually admits her license shows her a C rank, so in her view, it doesn't matter. She justifies the deception by pointing out the entire operation is already illegal. Nara stays silent, clearly conflicted, but eventually agrees to support her. She tries to remain hopeful about recouping their losses. Choi bursts out laughing, pleased she's finally cooperating. As they arrive, Nara is surprised by how ordinary the building looks. Choi explains that her younger sibling once told her about it, which catches Nara off guard. She walks in with confidence while Nara follows nervously. Inside, an elderly woman is found calmly knitting. Choi tells her she's looking for something and the woman calmly asks what it is. Choi shows her license, which reveals her full name, rank and role. The woman advises her to stop overthinking things and just join a guild. Choi responds casually, stating she already quit the day before. The woman suggests she rejoin since C ranks usually find work easily. Choi claims she's simply taking a break. The conversation shifts as the woman questions Choi's complaints and calls her privileged. Choi says nothing, allowing the woman to study her closely. Suspicion grows in the woman's eyes, and she abruptly accuses Choi of having killed someone. Nara and Choi are both startled. Choi avoids the accusation, instead asking if she can pay by card. The woman gives a mild scolding, explaining that card payments come with an additional fee, then processes the transaction without issue and sends them down a hallway. Passing through a curtain of beads, Choi leads the way while Nara complains about the high fees. Choi dismisses the concern, confident that they'll turn a profit. Inside, the arena is packed with flashing lights and a noisy crowd. Fighters already in the ring grumble about being unable to use cards. Choi scans the environment, noticing someone important isn't there. Her expression sharpens as she senses something wrong. Meanwhile, Nara handles the cash as others around them react with surprise to how much she brought. When she returns to Choi, the latter is visibly annoyed. Nara panics, not understanding what upset her. Choi scolds her for staying silent earlier, blaming her for the large fee. Nara defends herself, pointing out that Choi can afford it, but Choi reminds her that it was meant to be deposit money. Frustrated, she yells that it's not even her house and now she's effectively homeless. Then, abruptly shifting the subject, someone asks if it's their first time attending a fight like this. Before she can respond, a red-haired man shows and confidently walks over and smiles as he asks if he can sit beside Choi. A subtle clash of curiosity and caution. He sat beside her, striking up a casual conversation about the match. Two fighters were about to face off, one known by the codename Desert, marked by a facial scar, and the other, a bald man with a goatee called C. These aliases served as a means to preserve anonymity within the brutal system of the arena. Choi's response revealed the first shift in tone. Rather than placing a bet, she declared she was one of the fighters. Her calm reply hinted at something more beneath the surface. In return, the man responded with a veiled sarcasm, suggesting she should bet on someone truly strong. His insinuation was clear, perhaps someone like himself. The exchange sharpened. Choi, now visibly suspicious, questioned whether he had accessed her rank. She probed further, trying to discern whether he was one of the many who underestimated female hunters, or if he was different. Attempting to activate her inspection skill to uncover his name and power stats, she was met with a blank slate. His data was unreadable. That shocked her. The failure of her inspection ability, something she considered reliable, immediately led her to a chilling conclusion. For it to be ineffective, the target had to be ranked at least equal to or higher than her, and she was rank A. It raised troubling questions. Why would a high-rank hunter be in such a low-tier setting? What exactly was his purpose here? The tension between them thickened as they continued to talk about the fighters and ranking regulations. He remained unervingly composed while Choi, arms crossed, listened with a calculated expression. Nara, meanwhile, could sense the rising tension and stayed alert. Eventually, the red-haired man directly questioned why they were participating in an event restricted to rank C hunters. His suggestion of fraudulent registration made the atmosphere even heavier. Choi, not one to back down, retorted sarcastically, turning the accusation back on him. Nara finally intervened, grabbing Choi's arm in a clear attempt to break the standoff. She defended their legitimacy as licensed hunters, her tone frustrated but earnest. The man, however, merely responded with a dismissive, mocking sigh, clearly unconvinced. His lack of belief only added fuel to the fire. Irritated, Nara pushed back again, warning him not to stir trouble if he was just there to watch. Her reaction was laced with irritation and a hint of protectiveness toward Choi. The verbal clash ended there for the moment, but the tension between the three lingered like smoke before a storm. Choi appears confused as to why Nara referred to the man nearby as uncle, since he looks young and seems to be around the same age as them. Nara, visibly stressed, continues speaking in a disoriented manner, shifting the tense atmosphere into a lighter one. Despite her intense reaction, her description of the man contrasts starkly with reality. She perceives him as an older, bald man with red cheeks, while in truth, he is a young, red-haired man with an attractive gaze capable of charming any woman. Choi insists that the man looks their age and even points out his full head of hair. The misunderstanding becomes a source of comedic relief when the man jokingly responds to Nara's insults, making light of the situation while laughing. Choi, however, remains puzzled, struggling to make sense of the man's behavior. Nara suddenly suspects that he might be using some kind of special item to hide his true identity. The gong rings, signaling the start of the match, and the focus shifts to the arena. The fight is set to begin between two notable figures, the Desert Master and the Storm of the Sea. Nara shows excitement as she had placed a bet on one of the fighters, but the red-haired man continues laughing, irritating her enough to demand silence so she can concentrate on the match. He agrees reluctantly while Choi keeps a sharp eye on him, trying to analyze his movements and uncover what kind of power he might be hiding. She speculates that if his rank is too low, perhaps many around wouldn't even be able to clearly see his face. Meanwhile, the fighters are formally introduced. The Desert Master is revealed to be Park Deoksu, a rank E combatant with a facial scar. His opponent, Shim Baeyin, identified as the Storm of the Sea, is bald with a goatee and holds a rank D. Nara is highly engaged, debating with Choi on who might win. They both acknowledge the significance of rank in determining the outcome, and Nara proudly confirms that she bet on the rank D fighter. The match kicks off with an explosive exchange of punches. The red-haired man casually teases her, prompting her to angrily tell him to mind his own business. As the battle intensifies, Park Deoksu takes Baeyin to the ground and begins unleashing a series of heavy strikes. Nara shouts in desperation, urging her fighter to get up. Deoksu then does something unexpected. He opens his mouth to reveal shark-like, sharpened teeth and bites down aggressively on Baeyin's arm. Both the red-haired man and Choi react to this sudden display, surprised by the vicious tactic. Nara becomes even more worried, revealing her emotional investment in the outcome. Despite her hopes, the fight continues with Deoksu on the offensive, repeatedly landing brutal blows while Baeyin remains in a purely defensive stance. The red-haired man and Choi analyze the scene critically, calling out Deoksu for fighting dirty, while Nara tries to defend her chosen fighter, clinging to the idea of an epic comeback that never materializes. Eventually, Baeyin collapses, unconscious and thoroughly defeated. The judge announces the result: the Desert Master has won the match. The red-haired man mocks Nara right after she expresses her devastation over the outcome of a recent fight. It's revealed that she had placed her hopes and money on Baeyin from the C division. She's visibly shaken by the loss, dropping to her knees in disbelief, mourning the 300 she wagered. Unfazed, the redhead continues taunting her, highlighting her poor judgment for not listening to his advice. As Nara collapses into despair, Choi laughs freely, finding the entire situation amusing. But when Nara, overcome by rage, grabs Choi by the shirt and yells at her for the misleading tip that led to her loss, everything shifts. Choi's demeanor changes instantly. Her smile fades and her gaze turns deadly serious. She confronts Nara with a chilling stare that sends a wave of fear through her. Realizing the danger she's in, Nara backs down immediately, apologizes frantically, and tries to deflect by changing the subject to Choi's upcoming match, clinging to the hope of recovering her money through Choi. Choi, however, seems to have lost interest in fighting altogether. She turns away and walks toward the exit of the arena. Nara, still desperate, questions her sudden change of heart. But Choi simply states that she won't participate anymore and has changed her mind. Nara protests, reminding her of the promised help to win money. While leaving, Choi reflects silently, restraining herself from reacting violently. Her thoughts shift to the earlier mysterious item used by the red-haired man, something that seemed illegal and was clearly used to conceal his identity. She considers the implications: either he's a criminal or there's something even deeper going on. Before she can leave, the redhead calls out to her, teasing her about backing out. Their exchange becomes more personal. Choi, playful and bold, steps closer, brushes her hair aside, and suggests that he should take responsibility for her missed opportunity to earn money, since he exposed her. The redhead, caught off guard, tries to deflect the blame and suggests she'd be better off joining a guild to earn proper money with her talents. Choi steps even closer, hand on his shoulder, eyes locked on his, and declares that for her, all of this is just a hobby. She questions him in return, why he would go so far as to use an illegal item. Was this a hobby for him too? His tone grows cold. He accuses her of deception, noting that he had pretended not to notice her earlier schemes. He tells her to leave while she still can. But Choi doesn't back down. She says she needs access to certain distribution channels and demands to know where he got that mysterious item. He tries to joke it off, sarcastically asking if she plans to become a criminal now, and firmly refuses to answer. Their tense back and forth is interrupted when the door suddenly bursts open and a group of uniformed officers storms in, shouting that it's a raid against illegal betting. Chaos erupts. The redhead immediately assesses the situation and prepares to escape, not wanting to be caught. But Choi grabs his arm, preventing him from fleeing. As panic sets in around them, she calmly challenges his intentions, asking where exactly he thinks he's going. He's confused and stunned, questioning her actions. She holds his arm tightly, looks him straight in the eye, and gives him a choice: take her to the source of that item or be arrested alongside her. Choi, drawn in a chibi-like style, clings tightly to the red-haired man despite his clear frustration and attempts to shake her off. Nearby, a man accuses the red-haired figure, demanding his arrest, prompting the latter to mockingly call for Officer Tilda to remove the accuser instead. Choi receives a sarcastic thank you, to which she responds with exasperation. The scene transitions to a secluded building nestled within a forest during sunset. Without warning, a massive explosion erupts, sending flames and debris through the air. The red-haired man and his companions are thrown by the blast but land safely, immediately breaking into a sprint away from the devastation. The girl makes light of the destruction, but the red-haired man urges her to focus and follow him. He questions her reckless behavior, wondering if she plans to become a criminal. Unbothered, she grins and says she just wants her item appraised and maybe to buy something useful. While they run, she inquires about his rank. He tells her to check it herself, but she cannot see it. He advises her to raise it, and she responds with irritation, finding his suggestions easier said than done. As night falls, under a sky full of stars, the sounds of exhausted breathing emerge from the forest. Choi leans against a tree, panting heavily as she watches the red-haired man move swiftly ahead. She finds his speed impressive and begins to wonder if he might be a high-ranking individual. She calls out, asking how much farther they need to go. He informs her they've arrived. Confused, Choi questions the location but follows as he ventures deeper into the forest. He kneels and interacts with something on the ground, cautioning her not to say his name once inside. She teases him about being so famous, prompting him to introduce himself as Kim and suggest they skip the formalities. Choi smirks, agreeing, and asks his age. When he replies that he's 26, she notes that they are the same age and acknowledges their meeting. They enter a secret underground market hidden within a cave. Choi is surprised that such a place exists. A vendor remarks on how strange it is to find such markets and speculates about who could be responsible for digging the caves. Kim explains that hunters are behind it, elaborating that many of the people there either have criminal records or turn to crime after their awakenings. When Choi questions how he knows this, he casually mentions that he used to frequent the area, prompting her to joke about his past. She clarifies that she isn't a criminal and asks if he runs a guild. Kim replies that he is simply a member of one. When she presses for which guild, he responds with a smirk, claiming it's a secret. An elderly appraiser begins examining Choi's item. He states he can't sense anything from it and finds the ring suspicious. When he inquires about its origin, Choi explains she discovered it inside a dungeon and that it's bound to her. She cannot take it off. The appraiser appears confused, saying that the ring should be removable. Choi reiterates that's the reason she sought out the market. Choi then asks if there's any method to remove it, but the appraiser admits it's the first time he's encountered such a phenomenon. Choi remains silent, the mystery of the ring lingering between them. The appraiser admits defeat in understanding the item and requests permission to attempt removing it manually. Choi agrees. With careful hands, the appraiser begins to slide the ring from Choi's finger, but she immediately winces and clutches her side in pain. Startled, the appraiser recoils, shouting in shock. Choi explains the same pain occurred the night before when she attempted to take it off. The appraiser finds this reaction odd and decides to try identifying the item's name instead. When asked, Choi thinks about saying but chooses to the word unknown, and to keep that information to herself. Recognizing the item is beyond her capabilities, the appraiser offers the appraisal service free of charge. Choi quietly acknowledges the gesture and stands up, preparing to leave. As she turns, something catches her eye, a golden earring displayed nearby. Intrigued, she reads its description. A shadow earring capable of concealing the wearer's stats, ineffective only against individuals 2 ranks higher. Surprised by its function, she lifts the earring and reflects on how useful it would be. Even A ranks wouldn't be able to read her stats. She inquires about the price. The appraiser tells her it costs 300 and questions whether someone of Choi's apparent rank needs such an item. Choi enthusiastically confirms her interest and asks if card payments are accepted. After the purchase, she gently touches the earring, admiring how it looks on her. As she walks alongside Kim, she asks whether her rank is still visible. He confirms it is now hidden from anyone below S rank. She mentions the earring's limitation and how it only fails against S+ and above. Kim notes she might still run into someone that strong, then curiously wonders aloud what kind of item could conceal her rank so effectively. Choi seems caught off guard by his interest but doesn't reply. Suddenly she dashes off, her speed surprising Kim. He watches her with a sigh as she appears frustrated and lost in thought. Choi briefly considers visiting another appraiser but worries it would cause rumors. Gripping her arm, she tries to find another solution. Then her expression changes. An idea strikes her with clarity. She recalls the hidden dungeon. There are only 11 hidden dungeons known worldwide, with one located in Korea. 2 of them have previously reappeared, which leads her to believe the one she entered might still be active elsewhere. She realizes hidden dungeons reset after being cleared, and becomes determined to track it down. Her plan is to revisit every possible dungeon until she returns the ring to where it belongs. Yet frustration creeps in again as she acknowledges that re-entering dungeons would require joining a guild. Kim watches her silently, noticing her inner conflict. He then returns to the appraiser, arguing furiously about the overpriced item. He criticizes her greedy pricing and poor appraisal skills, even suggesting she should retire. The appraiser claps back, defending her career and denying any recent dungeon appearances. She insists she would know if one had emerged. Kim then pulls out a check for 300,000 won, pausing briefly in thought. He remembers he had just cleared a dungeon, then hands over the payment with a reluctant sigh. As he leaves, he mockingly calls the appraiser old lady, which earns a loud shout in return. Approaching Choi again, he casually confirms her name as high-end Choi, catching her off guard. With a smirk, he confesses his fondness for collecting rare items. Choi sarcastically offers him the ring but reminds him it's bound and can't be removed. Kim grabs her hand, saying there's always a way, and jokingly adds that he could just take the whole finger. Choi forces a nervous laugh and calls his hobby nasty. Kim narrows his eyes, pointing out that no new dungeons have appeared recently, yet she possesses a mysterious item. With a sharp grin, he accuses her of having entered a hidden dungeon. Choi freezes, shocked by the accurate deduction. She quickly realizes she had been manipulated into revealing more than she intended and regrets following him so easily.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see another part. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time. Bye-bye.